Terry and I were just talking, for those of you who had just joined us, welcome to our first July edition of what we're calling athLEDA Live. And so we have rebranded ourselves. We've had a team of marketing, high-performing student athletes for the most part, and a couple of fearless leaders help us come up with some great thoughts around how we show up and retain relevance and become a place of belonging for those who are here with us. So Terry and I were just chatting right as everybody was getting on that we're going to make this a bit of a call it a front porch talk. We're going to talk about things that are on his mind, things that have been happening in our society. And Terry may have a slide or so that he can share with us. But we'd love for everybody to make sure you mute your line unless you want to raise your hand and have something to add. I think there could be a little bit of static right now on one of the lines. So just everybody mind the line a little bit so we can have Terry's focus for us. So welcome, Terry. I'd love to just tell everybody a little bit about how I got to meet you as an intro, and then I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how we've gotten reconnected. We'll talk a little bit about that and what's kind of been in the space that you've been in and some of the things that you've got going on that you're excited about. So let me just kick it off by saying that I've known Terry probably for the better part of 5 years now. Terry and I met early in my journey at Lilly under a wonderful leader named Shelley Paget, and Terry worked with Shelley's leadership group, running an enormous part of their data center, the integration that we use for the clinical trial process. At the time, the average clinical trial process at Lilly was around 9 to 10 years. And so Terry's team took that process down and shaved it by a number of years. I believe our goal was to take it by about 30%. So we did a lot of automation. There was a lot of energy by his team to put that into play. And I worked in a bit of the organizational space with that, making sure people were playing to their strengths. And so Terry and I sat down a number of times to kind of work through that together. But during those moments, I got a chance to kind of see who Terry shows up as, and a man of faith, a man of focus were the two pieces that really resonated with me. So as I got re-engaged with Terry not too long ago, I learned that Terry had been involved in a terrible experience where he had been riding along the Monon, had an angry cyclist elbow him, causing him to be knocked unconscious, taken to the hospital, and suffer a severe concussion. And so in the process of us getting to know each other from way back when, we've also had a chance to kind of talk about what's happening today in our society. And I've been inspired by his strength. Terry, I'd love for you to just tell us how you're doing right now in relationship to the experiences that you've just been a part of, and how our communities are showing up, perhaps where things are right now with that investigation. If you'll just give us an opportunity to kind of meet you where you are at this moment.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, and congratulations in your new set of experiences. I'm always excited to see people following their passions. I'm reminded, I have a great grandmother who passed away in 1973, so I didn't meet her, but she was born in 1858, so she was 117 when she passed away, and so she was a slave. She can live through a ton when she passed, but it always resonated with me when I thought about how long she lived, that even if I lived to match her tenure, is still very short in the context of time. And so I need to go at it. I need to really take advantage of what space and time that I consume and seek to get the most out of it. So I'm happy for you as you venture into different worlds and more explicitly tied to your passion. So I'm Terry Morris. I'm originally from Florida. That southern drawl will surface when I'm not being careful. I think I hear a little bit of it now. And y'all and folk and stuff start showing up. I grew up down there in a little small town, Perry, Florida, with about 7,000 folks, and I played basketball and baseball in high school. And so but I recognized early enough that I should probably focus on academics, and I dug more deeply in that path. I attended Florida A&M for my undergraduate degree. It's a historically Black college down in Tallahassee, Florida, majored in computer information systems. I actually thought I was going to major in education, back in, I think, 87, Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, Crazy Joe. I saw that and I said, all right, I'm ready to be a teacher. And I went off and was going to get an undergraduate in computer information systems and also double major in education. And I saw the disparity in pay and said, maybe I'll fulfill that desire through other means. And ironically, I've done that I've taught at the college level for about 15 years. I've taught at a Bible college for about 9 years, and at IU for about 6 years. I left Florida to work for Eli Lilly and Company, and John mentioned that. For me, Lilly is unique and for what I was looking for. It actually very value centric, and its core values are respect for people, excellence, and integrity. And even as a sophomore in college, I had an opportunity to visit Lilly with the new program it was starting to seek to improve diversity. And I was invited to come, and man, did I felt something different by walking through its walls and engaging with its people, and knew even as a sophomore in college that should I get an opportunity to work at Eli Lilly and Company, I would strongly consider it. I was offered an internship that subsequent summer, but even though I felt so strongly that it was where I wanted to go, I had a unique opportunity while at Florida A&M working for an institute to run a program that Jeb Bush had actually started with Florida A&M to close the digital divide. And I, as even a college student, I was able to travel the state to all of these churches and Boys and Girls Club and community centers around the state to give them access to resources and dollars to drive a new set of possibilities for them. So I couldn't turn that down. While coming to Lilly and having an internship may have accelerated some things and given me context, I could not miss the opportunity to make a difference in communities that I felt needed it even the more. So so I did that. I don't regret it. And subsequently came back that next semester, got an offer to work for Lilly, and have been at Lilly. It'll be 20 years here, January 8th of next year. So, and then my wife works at Lilly. Both of her parents retired from Lilly and all that jazz. So I guess we got Lilly, running through our blood. At least it's keeping the lights on. One of the unique things about Lilly is that it has afforded me the opportunity to engage in the community immensely, and I have to be careful. My wife may hear me; she may find out some things that I'm a part of that I haven't told her yet. So don't you all tell her. But I was asked. There's something in Indianapolis called the IBJ 40 under 40, and I was fortunate to be selected, back in 2018 18. They caught me just before I turned 40. And they asked me, they gave me a whiteboard and said, write something, how do you feel what message do you want to convey to others? And this is what will be plastered everywhere. They only gave me all of 30 seconds. Actually, I think they gave me a lot of time in an email that I didn't read. Because I did not read it, I had to come up with something in 30 seconds. And
understood. Understood.
So it translated to, the first thing that came to mind was prioritize others. And that's really how I, seek to live my life. And faith is a big part of my tradition. And there's a scripture in Luke that suggests that to whom much is given, much is required. And man, was I given, have I been given much? And I believe that there's much required. I didn't tell an anecdote from my childhood. My mom was 15 when I was born, and I'm her second child. She was actually 12 with my older brother, and my dad spent most of my until I graduated college in prison. And so I recognized early in my journey that I've had the blessing of others, family and teachers, just a village that has chosen to ensure that that I was well cared for, to have the set of experiences that I've had. So I don't take any of that for granted. I actually, one of the teachers who was my seventh grade English teacher, she in the 8th grade, she started taking me to Florida A&M football games because she heard me mention a school that she didn't like. So literally, she almost every Florida A&M football game, she asked my grandparents who raised me if she could take me. And she did. No, out of town. She would pay for a hotel room, pay for tickets, all the food, so that type of investment in me, that it could have gone any other way. But because I've been so supportive, it has really led me to do the same. And so prioritizing others is one of the key principles that guides my behaviors and the investment of my energy. In my day job is a lot of how do I serve my business partners. I currently run a global shop with teams in India, Ireland, and UK, and have multiple managers that I look after and their teams, and then of course the vendor partners that extend our ability to deliver outcomes, and it's always what they know they get from me as someone who cares for them as a person, and then how we might seek to achieve outcomes together. How do we partner through a set of shared agendas? And I try to, and I found that approach, leads to deeper partnerships. I mean, the people, when they think that you care about them and about their success, they are willing to do everything to make you successful. In particular, if they believe that it's sincere, that it's not just words, that you've shown the evidence of sympathy. Now, I'm careful to tout out empathy because I actually don't believe I can be in your shoes or you in mine, but I do think it's very reasonable to expect sympathy and deepen that sympathy from others. So been on a journey at Lilly and driving outcomes across multiple functions. Outside of Lilly, I've one of the areas that I've become very passionate about is technology and diversity, and it goes back to some of my early days in college, and I even take it back even further than that. I didn't think I was gonna I was not planning to major in computers. It would have been more teaching in engineering. But I was working at Little Caesars, and went into a computer shop in Perry. There was only one, the small town, and the owner just happened to be there. And I told him I had $500 to buy a computer. He said, "Well, I'll call you back in a few days." And he offered me a job to create web pages. This was back in '94, and I could do it from home. And I just counted it a blessing. and so that's how I got into computer. And then I started recognizing how unique I was in my community, in that I had a computer at home. While I counted a blessing for me, I saw the disparity in others and not having access to technology. And so that deepened my interest in seeking to make it for a better place, and creating more access. So, BDPA, the Black Data Processing Associates, has been around for 45 years. However, I didn't hear about it till about 10 years ago, through Lily's engagement. And I started attending conferences and started being exposed to a different world of where a diverse group, primarily African American, in technology were growing and developing together. I hadn't seen anything like it before. And I said, well, where has this community been? and then I ultimately became the president of the Indianapolis chapter, and then back in 2018, yes, the beginning of 2018, I became the national president for BDPA. And we have 30 chapters around the country. Seeking, we have Sona, she's spoken at multiple of our conferences and local engagements, so she's been a great partner of ours. But we have really seeking to create a landscape where our motto is advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. It's really that continuum of experiences, and how might you address the disparities in the representation in computing. There's one of the areas I've been focusing on, particularly in the last 24 hours, because I had a proposal due. It was about some of the disparities in representation of those who curate data, and how might you eradicate bias by having people who more representation in those who create the data and drive analytics and so on. So we're going after evolving in some of those spaces. But we also recognize that the market, expressly during this time, there are communities where it is particularly unkind when there's a downturn. The underrepresented, underserved groups it is typically unkind to these periods, and early career professionals. It is typically not very kind to them during this period. So BDPA this year, we could have canceled our conference, our annual conference. It's our 42nd conference. But I decided early on that cancellation was not an option. We just had to figure out how we're going to deliver an experience in a virtual context. And boy, I'm glad we did so.
Terry, I have a question for you.
Sure.
That I'd love to think about. When you mentioned your proposal around roles that allow for underrepresented communities to look at the opportunity for the creation of content as a career path, can you describe some of the names of those roles, just so we can associate them for our early career professionals, and they can explore some of those concepts within we have a partnership with Salesforce, and so a lot of them are in the Salesforce environment doing doing upskilling and running down trailheads to get certifications. So
Yes.
perhaps you could help us with what you see that role looking like, or what some of the descriptors are.
Yeah, absolutely. So data engineers, you have, and there's this, the traditional data, particularly those who curate data were more statisticians, and now the market is expanding to create the space for those who make data available, and those are typically data engineers. And then you have this a whole set of capabilities, whether it be architecture and beyond. Those who focus on integration, and then those who on the back end who are focused on visualization and the analytics and creating these models that and the creation of algorithms that ultimately lead to the visualization and analytics that companies and organizations grow and thrive on. It's interesting during this space that we're in. I've been a part of multiple conversations of late about, what is the workforce of the future? What is the phenotype of the talent that companies are looking for in the future? And the future is really now. It's hard to talk about really the future because so much is changing in real time. And the common thread is learning agility. I mean, it's really those who have the ability to not be static in their consumption of information, that they have this intellectual curiosity that drives them into many different spaces and can kind of go anywhere because their curiosity takes them there. And what I found is that I didn't start out that way, but I am there now. I'm all over the place. I'm sure I drive my wife crazy. I got to be careful because she joined. But whether I'm reading a book, I'm currently reading 2 books. I don't know how you do it, but I am. White Fragility and Frederick Douglass, a biography by David Blight. But then last week I spent a lot of time reading or watching PBS on Reconstruction and some of the series that they have there. So I'm kind of all over the place. I just finished a book on Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, and so I just have different ways that I inform my thinking around what is possible, and it all has a purpose. It shows up in one way or another. So I encourage, as you're looking for your next and or what will be your first next leap out, to invest in exposing yourself to different worlds so that you will know what will be the thing, at least for the next phase of your life. I mean, give yourself the grace to know that it may not be the thing that you'll want to do for 40 years, but know for the next phase of your life what might be that which would be the fuel to your fire. For 36 years, I didn't work out. As a matter of fact, even when I was playing sports in high school, I did as minimal training as other than what the coach said. And then it was until I was 36 that I decided to go to the gym. And it was because my doctor said, if you don't get your cholesterol down, I will. And so I said, I'll start working out. And I have, and since that point, I mean, religiously, it's been just a part of, who I am. I ran a half marathon 2 years ago, and if you had told me I was going to run a piece of a marathon for prior to that, I would have laughed hard and long. And that just connecting back to Jelana mentioned in recent event experience I had. And I got into cycling, and we actually an apartment that we we have, and I see a hand. I'll tell this and I'll get out the way. I was riding on the Monon here in Indianapolis. You got about a 15-mile stretch from north of Indianapolis to downtown. Then you get on the multicultural trail. Now did it often, 3 or 4 times a week. I'll do this a 32-mile round trip from my apartment to back to Lilly and back. And I enjoyed it. It was my way of getting some cardio. And then I was riding, I hit about 75th Street, and then I'm riding, I'm listening to my gospel music, and I'm kind of locked in. And before I left my apartment that day, I decided to tighten my helmet. And I've done it many a times and didn't. And that day specifically, I decided to tighten my helmet. And I'm riding, and then the next thing I remember is being in the emergency room with my wife, and I had no context about what happened and how I ended up or why I was in the ER. But for some reason, I did feel at ease because I saw my wife, and I just knew that wherever I was being well cared for. And she was careful, particularly over the next 36 hours or so, to not allow me to be exposed to any social media and it was on the news, I think, as some of you may have seen. But I had no knowledge of any of that. I woke up on that Monday morning, and around 4:30, and I grabbed my phone, and I thought my wife had given me permission to get it. I turned out she had not, but it was too late at that point, unfortunately. But I saw the news. I saw Facebook and all of these responses. I'm like, well, what happened? And I saw the news article, and I was just brought to tears because I really had not made a connection and or was able to keep the connection because of the impact of the immediate impact of the concussion. And my first thought was, what would have brought someone to have brought this pain and impact? And that was kind of I felt like I was really grieving the experience for the first day or so. And I appreciated my wife for really trying to give me time to be able to digest that. I didn't fully appreciate why she was doing all that, but in hindsight, I needed that time to be ready to absorb what had happened. And the perpetrator is still, they have not been able to identify him. And I kind of pivoted from, a desire, and I never really think I had a desire for revenge as much as I do have a desire for whomever would be willing to inflict that pain to be apprehended and get help. And that's the primary response that I have at this point, that whomever would have done that needs help, and significant help, and need to not be able to do that to anyone else. Now, what I have since found is that that they use racial epithets in their messaging to me. Because I had my headphones on, I didn't even hear them say it. But others were able to attest to that. It's a part and parcel to the world that we are in my estimation, that there is a segment of our population that is finding the liberty to act out of their perspective and at the expense of others. And there's some historical dimensions that have made that possible. But I am happy to know that there is, and in my estimation, a majority that has found that behavior not tolerable in any fashion. And I believe that majority is growing, and so it would help to stomp out the minority that would be willing to inflict that pain. In my, while I will grow past all of this, I'm sure there's still much more work to be done. I've talked much more and on so many things. I don't know if I held a thought together any longer than 5 minutes, but I'll pause. I think Felicia had a question and go wherever anyone would like to go.
Hey Terry, good to see you. And just to just share my history with Terry, I think we've known each other for about 20 years. I think we started Lily around the same time. And I now live in Dallas, but just as he was talking about his journey through his career, I can just attest to just, I've always felt that Terry was just always very forward thinking. I mean, he was very, very mature for his age. And you can just tell in the way that he speaks and everything. And he's always been very, very encouraging, very enlightening, always positive. And so I can just see, and just seeing the trajectory of his life and his career, I'm just very excited for him, where he is now, and how he's always helping others. I mean, it's just not about him getting to a certain level, but he's always helping, encouraging, providing advice. And I think just even the times that we spent together on committees and just, the friendship and the time that we spent at Lilly, he's just been a great encourager for me. And we haven't spoken really in a number of years until I heard about this incident and just messaged him and hope he was doing well. But it's good to see you, and just you're great. You're a great guy. You're a great husband, and great man of God. And I'm really proud of you and excited just to see where you continue to go in your career.
Well, thank you, and I have valued our friendship as well. You did strike a chord. I didn't mention as I was talking through a bit of my bio. I was at Lilly for 1 year, and I was asked to apply for a supervisor position. And I'm like, all right, well, I have definitely chosen the right place, because they want me to pursue a supervisor position. I didn't get it. But I thought that I'm like, oh, you all recognize what you have. And then 2 years later, so I haven't been at Lilly for 3 years, I received a discipline notice. And it was the first step of a 3-step discipline process. And I'm like, what in the world? Where did this come from? And I'm in the midst of HR and all this, and I'm fighting something that I thought had no credence, no value whatsoever. But it started a cycle where I didn't receive my first promotion for 6 years. In a Lilly context, that's a death knell. I mean, you don't survive, particularly as an early career professional, with having that set of experience. And I remember at year 5, I just knew that this was the year. Almost everybody that I came with, they had gotten their promotion, or they thought they were going to get it this year. I said, this is my year. And I'm in there with my director. And I said, but the director is here. My new supervisor, who I had not met, was there. And I just said, yep, they're here to tell me all the good news. And they were there to tell me that I did not get a promotion that year, but keep at it. And the director left, the new manager, whom I had not met again, was there. And I just broke down crying. And I'm like, Lord, I'm crying in front of this new supervisor. They'll know where to go but up from here. And she said to me, I don't know you, but what I can tell you is that if you do your part, I promise to do my part. And she, at year 6, every tool available in the compensation pot, she surfaced it. In my 20 years and 10 years as supervisor, I've never known anyone to have gotten all three of the levers available. But that year, I got all lever available. I counted it, double for my trouble, Job reference. And would you know that if I fast forward 3 years later, I had gotten that promotion and had just gotten another promotion in 2010. And later I tried to get out of the job that I was in, but the guy that I was trying to give it to was moving too slow, so I still was stuck in it. But then the next thing you know, it opened the door for another opportunity, and later that year, I was promoted again. So I had 2 promotions. Now, Lily, you don't get 2 promotions in the same year. I got 2 promotions in the same year, and the guy told me if he had known that I was promoted earlier in the year, he wouldn't have even allowed me to interview. And I told him, I'm glad you didn't know. And we're good friends now. And then the next year, I became a manager, and 2 years later, I became a director. So I had a very slow start on the front end of my journey, but the latter end of my journey, I seemed to pick up some of the steam that I thought that I had earlier. So, I guess a part of that is just stay at it. Every journey, every story is different. If faith is your tradition, allow that to fuel your fire. Know that if you believe that if you are affirmed that you're doing what you are supposed to be doing, then be at peace with that and know that I'll even go scripture, in due season you will reap if you faint not. Don't faint is the message I'd offer.
Terry, would you like us to share your, you gave us one slide, and I was thinking perhaps just for the sake of maybe creating a visual for those who learn visually,
Sure.
how to think about some of those concepts, because what I've loved, and Blair, feel free to throw that up on our slide deck space here. What I love what you've shared is being intellectually curious, having high learning agility, and weathering the storm, and prioritizing others. Those are the things that I've taken away so far, but I'd love for you to share that in relationship to the visual that we're seeing here, and a couple of the slides that you've shared with us to think about who you are and how you show up today.
Yeah. And there's a picture of my wife and daughter, and it doesn't have our new addition, Jackson. We have a 14-year-old. Matter of fact, I'm trying to hide his nursery because that was what I could get of an office while we're in the midst. We didn't plan for COVID-19 when we sold our house and had a baby. But you also see me cycling. Matter of fact, that picture, that second picture, was some folks from my church. They knew I cycled. They said, "Hey, well, we'll go with you." They didn't know how extreme I got. So one guy he rode 50 miles with us that day, but let's just say he hasn't been back. If you go to the next slide, I'll hang there for a bit. This is a bit of my journeys. I've had the fascinating opportunity to travel, between Cork and Paris and the UK and India. And I attribute all that to who I am today. There is no experience that I've had that I take for naught. And I allow that experience to play its role. I may not, and I don't force myself to seek to understand why. I allow myself to go with it, and allow. There's a song that says you'll understand it better by and by. And I have embraced that inevitability that I'll understand it better, by and by. And there I would offer that there is a value in you beginning to put some markers of what is possible, out there, and then, lean in that direction until you are affirmed otherwise. What you will see here in actually my current job, I was trying to meet with a vice president for several years, and never could make it happen. And next thing you know, we finally got together, and I shared my career map, and I had this job as one of the possibilities on my career map. Unbeknownst to me, he sent a note to my vice president and my boss at the time, Shelley Badgett, who John referenced. And before you know it, I was in this job. I didn't never interview for it. As a matter of fact, for the past 10 years, the jobs that you see here were basically given to me. I only pursued one job, and that was my first manager role. After that, the jobs evolved for me, and not suggesting that that is the way it has to be for everyone. That's how my evolution occurs. And I can tell you, whenever I pursued a job that was me actively in pursuit, it did not work. So I decided to take my hands off the wheel and allow for the process that has been working to continue to work. And I imagine that it will evolve. So, but that's a bit of my journey and a bit of my story. Can I answer any questions?
Well, Terry, I'll lead with, and then I'd love to hear questions from others. We've got about eight or so minutes left on the time together. Terry, one of the things that just jumps off the page to me is how you've taken the opportunity to be a leader within a large organization that values your role, and then you've expanded that into that heart-centered concept of becoming a teacher way back when, and you've owned your leadership around the BDPA experience. So when I think about the chat we had, the connection we've made recently, I'd love to offer this audience here an opportunity to kind of understand a little bit more about that space that you're playing within the BDPA. I know that there's a conference coming up. I know that I'm going to attend that conference and get a good heavy dose of what there is to be connected to from a partner perspective with you. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about how our audience can lean in with you as you take this next chapter of your journey forward.
Oh, thank you. I'll acknowledge my bias for technology related opportunities. We're leveraging technology right now, as a matter of fact, and imagine, had we not had Zoom not have built a capability like this ready for the pandemic. Think about all the frustration that you have by being on Zoom all day long, but imagine if it were not here and not be as robust as it is to handle all of our capability needs. And so that's how I think about the BDPA platform, that it is there to develop talent for the now and the future, and whether it be young people like my 14-year-old daughter, and she's actively a part of BDPA and learning how to code and learning how to create web pages, and then college students. We're actively partnering with colleges to start chapters around the country. We're starting with historically Black colleges, but we will expand beyond them as well. Our adult professionals that are in their careers. I actually talked to a firm earlier today over lunch, and they They came to BDPA saying, look, we're looking to hire talent. We want talent, and are having difficulty getting access to diverse talent in tech. And the disparities are real when you talk about minority group members and females in tech. There are significant opportunities there. So I really see the BDPA landscape as really a way to take people who want to have access to the next level of possible in tech and help them to do so. And our BDPA conference is intended to do just that. We have been able to get access to some phenomenal speakers and great experiences from across the board. We have entrepreneurship. I mean, unique thing I'll mention quickly is that we have a partnership with the Air Force this summer where they want to have, they have a budget. This particular branch of the Air Force has a budget of $97 million, but they don't have enough minorities and diverse suppliers getting contracts from this branch of the Air Force. So they came to us saying, hey, look, we want you all to help us to get access to historically Black colleges and diverse suppliers. And so they're telling us they're going to bring 1,000 people. Hey, well, we got room, so bring them on. You know, so those are the types of experiences. Then there's a pitch competition for that area, so they can try to win some of that $97 million. We have a pitch competition for entrepreneurs. It's a smaller one, but bring your ideas. But then there are a ton of experiences for women in tech, for men in tech, and for the digital continuum and automation and analytics and beyond and career. We're working with LinkedIn now. We're almost finished with the deal where they'll be offering career coaching and resume writing and profile development. So we come one, come all. We believe that there's a unique opportunity. And Jelana and I have been talking about what a partnership looks like. We will back into a partnership that's mutually beneficial. That I'm sure. we haven't put words on paper, but we know that we will, because the needs, the opportunities, you know, are great here.
And I'm excited. I think some of the things that you've described, Terry, are just exactly in line with the experiences that our athletes. As a foundation, we are about 73% diverse. So we stand within the continuum of those who are looking and aspiring to create relevance and really do what's part of their passion, right? So we lead with our strengths. And I remember you saying when you started this talk that you learned that prioritizing others was part of your passion, and so you've leaned in on that and you've allowed that to serve you while you serve others. What would you say are some of the key takeaways that you would offer us as you think about, I certainly will continue to represent and encourage and invite those here on the call and in our foundation to come to the August event. I know I put it on my LinkedIn page, but we'll put it on our new platform that we're going to be launching here in the next 7 days. The Salesforce analytics platform that we've created with a whole bunch of diverse high performers that's going to go live here soon. So we'll have a launch party and we'll put that on there. Cool. But I'd love to think about what are some of the things that you could just say what you'd love for us to take away as we reflect on some opportunities to lean in as you have in your career, and we can bring that home together today.
You know, here in the last several weeks, I have been challenged from multiple circles to go for the moonshot. And I submitted a proposal for something earlier this week, and they said that's not aggressive enough. And I can't tell you how many times in the past month have I been told that's not aggressive enough. I guess I need to become more aggressive. But the key message that I've been hearing is that for this space and time, when you feel you have the right message and the right product, go for it. Don't wait on perfection. Don't wait on a perfect dimension of anything. Perfection comes at a cost, and a significant cost, and most aren't willing to pay for that cost for perfection. So why wait on perfection? I'm not suggesting that you don't do some level of due diligence, but if you feel affirmed and passionate about an area, you'll find. I actually had an opportunity to interview Dave Stewart, who's a billionaire. He's worth 3.9 billion. He and I talked here about 3 weeks ago. We'll play it at the BDPA conference, and one of the things that he would acknowledge that his passion fueled him. His depth of comfort in what was possible fueled him, not perfection. So I encourage you to lean into what is possible, lean into your passion, and let that fuel your possible.
So with that, I don't know if there's a better way to conclude that. I want to allow all of us to say thank you to Terry, both individually and collectively. Please take a moment today to go into your social media, into your own influencer network, and share something that you heard about this call, something that you took away. We honestly and authentically want to be a part of what change looks like across this nation and across this planet. So this is the start of that. We stand together. Certainly, Terry, we stand with you and we honor you. And we will be a part of that BDPA 2020. You got us.
Thank you. Well, and I certainly look forward to partnering here. And I again appreciate you leaning into your passion and helping to start something that I know will be great. So nice to hang out with you all this afternoon.
Thank you, Terry. We appreciate you. Everyone have a great day.